Hello everyone, I hope you've all been having a good Christmas. I suppose that some people will be saying, well, it's all over now, it's as far away as it'll ever be. But for we Christians, it still goes on, and it goes on actually until the 2nd of February. But that's another story, perhaps a bit nearer the time. If you saw my last video, you might recall that I'd say a bit more about locusts and wild honey, to tell you a little bit more about why I chose that theme, and that's what I'm going to do right now. When we think about the spiritual life, the Christian life in general, it actually reflects our everyday life in some respects, in a lot of respects in fact. Our everyday life is littered, as it were, with triumphs and tragedies, disappointments and delights, joys and sorrows, and we just have to make the best of it that we can do. In modern parlance, modern way of speaking, we're told that we just need to suck it up and get on with it. And in actual fact, the spiritual life, the Christian life, is very much like that. Whenever you become a Christian, whenever that might have been, whether it was from being a baby or whether you had some sort of conversion experience later in life, you'll know that if you're going to apply yourself to the Christian life in any way seriously, then it too will bring you times of disappointment and times of delight, times of joy and times of sorrow, times of triumph and times of tragedy. And yes, again, there's a real sense in which we've just got to get on with it. When we look at the lives of the saints, we see what it cost them to be followers of Christ, to be disciples of Jesus. And if that's what we are trying to do to the best of our ability, with God's help, then we can perhaps only expect what the saints had to cope with in their lives. But when we think about ourselves in our modern contemporary context, we may not be called upon to suffer some of the things that they suffered, but nevertheless we will suffer, but at the same time we'll have our triumphs too. Now, when I came to think about upgrading shorts from my study and rebranding it, I wanted to have a title that in some way reflected the spiritual life. And as I was reading about St. John the Baptist, it struck me that what it said about him would make a good title for my videos. It says in Matthew chapter 3 and verse 4 that his food in the wilderness was locusts and wild honey. Now, I've never eaten locusts, but I should imagine that they're rather tough and chewy and very difficult to swallow. But at the same time, I know very well what honey tastes like. It's very sweet, of course, and it melts in your mouth and it goes down without any trouble whatsoever. And I think that the locusts and wild honey is a good metaphor for the spiritual life. Locusts representing those tough and difficult bits of life that are chewy, if you like, and the honey, it symbolises those better times in life, the good times, the joyful times, the times of grateful and thankful celebration. Now, the first edition of Locusts and Wild Honey I'll be publishing next week, very shortly after the new year, and here's the introduction to it. I'm not going to tell you any more about it. You'll have to just wait and see, and I hope that you'll wait with eager anticipation to see what I mean by that title. Anyway, until then, I'd like to bid you all a very happy and prosperous new year. Thank you for watching. Bye.